I'm Jeff, and today I'm going to replace the front brake pads and brake rotors on a 2023 Hyundai Tucson. This one right here. So I'm going to go over everything you're going to need tool-wise and parts-wise to do it. So let's get started. So here's everything you're going to need to do to replace the rotors and the brake pads. You're going to need, obviously, a set of rotors. Now, I opted to get the drilled and slotted. You don't need it. And the only reason I did is they were virtually the same price. For the average person, you don't need anything special. They didn't come with it, so obviously the manufacturer didn't think you would need it. And then the brake pads. And as far as the brand of brake pads and rotors, I'm not going to suggest any. To be honest, what I would suggest is to get on somewhere like Amazon, look at different ones. That's where I ordered these from in a package. And I would just read the reviews and see what people think about them. And that's how I determined which brand to buy. So again, I would just buy what brand you're comfortable with. So you're going to need a hammer of some sort. You're going to need one of the large Phillips screwdrivers. Possibly, according to your car, how old it is, how long it's been since it's been apart, how many miles are on it. You may need an impact driver to get the rotors off. But we'll get into that and see. I haven't tried to loosen these or anything, so we'll see it as it's happening real time and show you what you may need to do it. You're going to need, well, I done forgot what size, a 14 millimeter socket and ratchet. That is to get the caliper off. You're going to need a 21 millimeter socket and a torque wrench. The torque wrench is very, very, very important. The lack of using this torque wrench is the reason I'm having to do this at all. So I'll get into that when the time comes. And lastly, you're going to need a fairly good sized screwdriver. You don't have to have a really big one, but you need one that you can pry with a little bit. So you need some leverage. And possibly, I hope not, but possibly a C-clamp. This will be to push the piston to the caliper back in to give you enough room for the new unworn brake pads. So for the sake of time, I went ahead and jacked it up and got it ready. I've jacked both sides up, but you don't have to. You can do one side at a time. To be honest, that's the way I generally do it. And remember, before you start jacking, you need to loosen your lug nuts just a little bit, because with it jacked up, the tire spins. You can't get enough leverage to get your lug nuts loose. So with that said, let's get into it, and shouldn't really take but a few minutes, and we'll get it back on the road. So before I start tearing it apart, I was just going to explain a little to everyone. So this is obviously your brake rotor. This is your caliper. And this right here is the pads. As you can see, my pads are actually worn pretty bad. So now this has a piston in it. You can see the round part right here. So this has a piston. When you push your pedal, it moves fluid through this hose, pushes this piston out. This thing is on a slide, so then it squeezes this rotor, and that's what stops you. But that piston, as your brakes wear, it inches its way out and gets closer and closer and stays there, so that when you push your brake, you have instant brake and it doesn't have to do a bunch of traveling. But you have to get that piston pushed back to be able to have enough room for your new pads and your new rotor if your rotor's thicker. So there's several ways of doing it. This is the way I prefer if I can. So, you know what, let me turn this wheel and that'll give a better view. Okay, now we can see a little better. So you can see this is the rotor right here. This is the pad, and this is the piston that goes back and forth. So a lot of times this slides. So to save yourself some time, you can just take a screwdriver, put it right in here, and put just a little bit of leverage. You don't need to pry on it too much. Doesn't have to be really hard. See it just barely moving? It's really slow. So you don't need to push on it real hard. Just a little bit at a time. And just hold steady pressure on it. And it will move this caliper. It'll slide this caliper. You can see there on that bolt how it's moving. And that will push your piston back. And this will save you from having to use a C-clamp and try to hold it and suspend it and get it. So you can see how now you can't see the piston at all. So that's really all you need, is just enough. There, that's better. See the gap in there now? That pushed your piston back far enough that now you can just slip the new pads right on without any problem. So now it's time to take the caliper off. This is where your 14mm socket and ratchet, or wrench really. So these things shouldn't be too tight, but some people do over tighten them. And in that case, sometimes you have to tap it with a hammer or find something to give you some more leverage. But that's about as tight. These have never been off. So you can see from the factory, they didn't put them all that tight. And then, so this just comes right off. So now you can get a good look at this piston. So this is the piston that moves up and down that a few minutes ago we just pushed back so that we can get the new pads in. And so you'll need to get this up out of the way. Try not to let it hang from this rubber line. So generally what I use is just a cheap bungee cord. Just find you some way or another of hooking it. So if you were just replacing the pads, this is all you would need to take loose. At this point you would just pull these off, pull the one off the front, and just put the new pads on, put back together. But since we're taking this rotor off, we need to take this off, and we need to remove two big Phillips head screwdrivers here, screw heads there. So these two bolts are 17mm, and they're probably going to be a little tighter. So you can either get something that's longer, give you some more leverage, or just a few taps with a hammer, and they're loose. Just lay that out of the way, and it looks like these two bolts are identical, so it doesn't matter which way, top or bottom. So I told you earlier that it took a big Phillips screwdriver. It doesn't. This one has a normal Phillips screw in it. Okay, as you can see, it's just got a normal Phillips screw in it. Now, the question is, will it come loose? And it won't. Sometimes you can get lucky and they will come out easy. Sometimes they don't. This is one that doesn't. So this is when you may have to get one of these hammer drivers. These are pretty cheap if you have to get one. So basically, when you hit it with a hammer, it kind of acts like an impact. You hold this still, but it'll turn this just a tiny bit. So let's see if we can get it to work. See how easy that was? That's all it took. So now just remove these two. They'll go in either hole. So, doesn't matter. See, they're identical. So you don't have to worry about mixing them up. You have to bump it a little. Popped right off. And remember, if you are replacing the rotors with a slotted and drilled, these things are directional and they'll be marked. See, this one's the front passenger side. And you're ready to go. So these things do not need to be extraordinarily tight either. Just snug them up pretty tight, and that's it. They're pretty simple to replace. They just snap on there like that. So what I always do when I take them off, I hold them kind of in place to make sure that I don't get it all mixed up. So sometimes it's different from side to side. This one doesn't look like it is, but just make sure it's the same. And then that's all there is. Another hint to give yourself a little more confidence is only tear down one side at a time. Just in case you take it apart, you can't remember how it goes back together, the other side will still be assembled. You can look at the other side. I will, if I'm using a short wrench or ratchet, I'll just tap it a little bit. And you're good. Okay, there's something I didn't point out earlier, and that is that these pads are the same size and all that, except this one has two little nipples on it. And not positive why it's on there, but it was on the front. If for some reason you forget to look and see which pad was which, you can always look at your old pad. There'll always be an outline of where it was. So you can see this one was on the piston side, which was the back, and this one was on the support side, which is the outside. You obviously can see the marks where it's been. So what I do is I just take just a little bit of the lube. Now, these did not come with a shim, so I'm going to transfer it. I'm not sure that you need to or have to, but I'm going to because I think it'll cut down on noise just a little bit. So here's what I do. So you can see this thing of lubricant, there's not much, and they do that intentionally because the last place you need a lot of grease is on brake pads. But you do need a little bit in particular areas, and that is right in here where it slides. I'll do this one first so that we can see exactly how it goes together. So there we go. It's kind of a tight fit. Should be able to see how it goes. It just sets in those slides. So this is that. So, what can you see? Okay. Now I'm horrible with my camera. So this is it, and you can see it right here. It is that right there, that right there. So then this just sits right there. Not on that, but right there. Simple as that. Okay, there we go. Now these don't have to be extraordinarily tight. That is plenty. And that is it. So now just look over everything, make sure you got it on there, all on there tight. You didn't twist this, do anything like that. These are tight. You remember putting them on. These are tight. You remember it. These are in. That's it. Now you're ready to put the wheel on and move to the other side. So all I'm going to do is snug them down. We'll fast forward through the other side, and then we'll talk about tightening the wheel. Okay, now for the final two things. And this one, in my opinion, is the most important thing of doing a brake job. So this thing was vibrating when you'd hit the brakes mainly at high speeds. Usually low speed it didn't do it. But the reason it did it is because, so when you buy these Hyundais new, they come with, I believe, 3 years of free oil changes and tire rotation. So we took the car in for the third oil change, and they rotated the tires. Within a week, the rotors were vibrating. And the reason is because whoever put this back together after they rotated the tires did not use a torque wrench. The reason you have to use a torque wrench to put on wheels on late model cars is because when you get this hot, like say you're out on the highway or you're coming down the mountain, you get it hot, this wheel is stronger than this rotor. So as this rotor gets hot and this wheel is put on with, if they put it on with an impact, it may be 200 pounds on this one, it may be 150 pound on this one, it may be 300 pound on this one, and 100 on this one. Well, it's not going to come loose. It's not going to come off the car at that point, but it puts pressure on this rotor. And when this rotor gets hot, it will twist to match the tension of this wheel. And if you don't have these all torqued the same, it will twist that rotor to match this wheel. When the rotor cools off, that's where it stays. So if you don't torque these wheels, it is almost guaranteed you're going to do the exact same thing again, and probably 2 or 3 or 4,000 miles. So if you don't have one of these, go get one. They're cheap. I think this one here I paid maybe $30 at Harbor Freight, but you have to torque them. Now, as far as what to torque them at and how, so when I worked for Ford and they sent me to brake school, basically all manufacturers are somewhere between about 70 and 125 pounds. So it was general practice to just torque them all at about 90 pounds. And that is plenty. It doesn't have to be torqued real tight. It doesn't need to be torqued real tight. You torque them all on a passenger car. Big trucks are different. But you torque them all on a passenger car at about 90 pounds. And it, to be honest, it doesn't even have to be exact 90 pounds. It can be 90 pounds, 80 pounds, 100 pounds, 120 pounds. The only thing is it has to all be the same. That's all that matters. So on these kind of torque wrenches, when it does that, stop. You go to the next one. Stop. Go to the next one. The next one. And you're done. That's all you got to do. Now your brake rotors won't vibrate again. You won't get them hot and make them vibrate if you do this. My car's a little dirty, so look over it. So when you do the brake job and you push those pistons back, well, now there's a distance between it. It's not up flush. So what you need to do, get in it, start the car, and then your brake pedal, pump your brakes. See how far it goes down? So the first 2 or 3 times you push the brake pedal after replacing the pads, the piston is so far away from the pad they don't work. You have to do it 3 or 4 times, then you get the piston extended where it needs to be. If you don't do this, you're not paying attention, you drop it in gear, start backing up or pulling off, you hit the brakes, you're not going to have any brakes until you pump them 3 or 4 times. So that is the basics of replacing the rotors and the pads on your Hyundai Tucson. I'm going to guess that most all of the Tucsons are going to be almost identical to this. I know my wife had a 2011 and this one is a 2023, and there's virtually no difference in the two. So I hope this helps. I have uploaded a oil change video for this same car to show you in depth how to change the oil. It's pretty simple. It's a good way to save yourself some money. There's a few other things I'm going to do to the car, and I will post them when I do it. So remember, if you enjoyed it or it helped you, consider liking the video and maybe subscribing. Like I say, I'm going to do several of this car. So I appreciate you watching. I hope it helped, and I'll catch you on the next time.